Taxi organization SANTACO says a taxi fare increase may be on the cards in light of the steep fuel hike that will take effect on Wednesday. SANTACO's president, Taibos, says the national executive will meet tomorrow to chart a way forward. Last night, the Energy Department announced that the price of petrol would rise to R1.34. Diesel will go up by 82 cents and illuminating paraffin by 63 cents a litre. The hike will include the annual fuel and the road accident fund levies. The Department of Energy's Robert Marquez says among the reasons for this increase are international factors such as cost of importing both crude oil and finished products. The weaker rand against the dollar contributed around 28 and 30 cents to the prices, and the higher crude oil prices affected the price of petroleum products. For Gauteng, the transport cost adjustment is around 5.7 cents per litre, and it will be different in other provinces. Well, Leighton Beard from the Automobile Association joins us now on the line. Good afternoon, Leighton. Thank you so much for joining us. What do you make of the latest fuel hike?
Good afternoon, Mahendra. Look, these fuel hikes are not great news for consumers. It's significant increases of between R1.31 and R1.34 for petrol, and around 80 to 83 cents for diesel. So when you combine these with the increases we had in the previous months, they are very significant, and it is certainly going to be very hard for consumers, especially those who rely heavily on transport, to get around these increases. And as you said earlier, there's a very strong likelihood that at least in one way it's going to affect commuters who pay for taxi fare, in that taxi fare is now going to be increased as well, or there's a likelihood it's going to be increased. So it certainly isn't great news for mobility across the board.
Yes, and also, apart from the transport costs, but there's going to be a domino effect on all sorts of costs. You know, the cost of transporting goods and food prices, etc., will start to rise.
Absolutely. When you consider that fuel plays a very significant role, it's a very significant input cost into the manufacturing process, it's a very significant input cost in the agribusiness sectors. These companies and these individuals have to recover that input cost somehow, and the way that they recover those costs is by passing them on to consumers. So there will be a direct impact on people when they fill up their tanks come Wednesday, but there'll also be an indirect impact when people start seeing prices of goods increasing steadily to accommodate for these increases. It certainly is very bad news indeed.
Now, what other factors have been, to blame for this massive increase? We were told by the Department of Energy that it's to do with the price of crude oil internationally. But are there other factors regarding the South African economy that you can point to that has led to this increase?
Sure. Obviously the international petroleum prices play a significant role in this increase, but the weakening rand against the US dollar is another important factor. We saw the rand weaken about up to 2-3% against the greenback last week. There's no indication of how it's going to perform in the weeks ahead, so those two big indicators certainly have driven the price up. And then the inclusion of the increases to the two fuel levies, the general fuel levy and the road accident fund levy, are adding an additional 20 cents to the price. Just on that, when we consider that up to 40% of every litre of fuel is paid towards taxes, there would appear to be some room for government to operate within that band. We know that we sell, for instance, fuel to neighbouring countries at cost price. They're buying their fuel at 10 rand a litre. We're selling it for 15. So, there may be some room there. But in terms of the international product prices, not very much wiggle room. And then again, in terms of the rand-US dollar exchange rate, we'll be looking for a climate of investment in South Africa, a very, an economic-friendly environment that'll drive the price of the rand up against the dollar. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened in the past couple of weeks.
And Leighton, very briefly, could load shedding have had an impact on this price increase?
Look, it could have had an impact in terms of the feeling towards investment friendliness in South Africa. I think load shedding would have increased demand for fuel, certainly locally, as people needed to buy fuel to run generators. It is still early, and it's very difficult to say what impact that would have had on the fuel price. I think in terms of South Africa's economic climate, that would have had an impact, but not much beyond that.
Well, thank you very much indeed for your comments and insight. There was Leighton Beard from the Automobile Association.